I think the world can be much, much better off if we can come together and really devise ways to tackle misinformation. You should not try and market it as a centralized solution. This is a question that we got asked quite a lot 2018, 2019.
So we need to put on our big boy pants to really start thinking about how Web3 technologies will become. Their journey should be as streamlined as possible.
Essentially use this portfolio of knowledge even within the AI systems, such as generative AI systems, sponsoring kickboxing championship or sponsoring, arenas.
Yeah, the next months are crazy, man.
Hello and welcome to KryptosChain. My name is Claudio, and joining me today are the two co-founders of OriginTrail. We've got Žiga and also Thomas as well. Guys, welcome. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. So the reason why I brought you guys on is because you're lucky enough to have won a Twitter poll, which I conducted recently to see who I can bring on from the Polkadot ecosystem. As you know, there are a ton of projects building on Polkadot. So I wanted to be fair to the community and see who the community want to vote for me to bring on this channel and share more information about this project, and hopefully we can learn more of what's going on behind the scenes. So thank you very much for joining. First of all, I have to ask each and every one of you, if you could give us a short summary. When did you first hear about crypto and get started? Because we always want to know that backstory.
I guess the first time I heard about crypto was at the college. But just kind of someone briefly mentioned that there is this very successful company in Slovenia, which is called Bitstamp. It's an exchange still up and running. And I didn't quite understand what is it all about back then. That was 2012. And then I heard about Bitcoin and how this is going to revolutionize the way people transfer value. But that was very early beginnings, and I wasn't even thinking about how applicable the technology behind it, blockchain, can be. So it wasn't until, I believe, 2015, after we already started our business in supply chain, so helping with the trust and transparency when it came to exchanging information in supply chains, when someone came to us and I think he briefly mentioned that you can actually use blockchain for supply chains, and I was pretty much skeptical because, the real world business and blockchain 2015, they seem to be even more reconcilable than today. So those were very early beginnings of me thinking about blockchain and hearing about the cryptocurrency.
Absolutely interesting. So you're from way back then. Wow. I'm well familiar with Bitstamp, but I started learning about them back in 2017. Because it was one of those exchanges where you could easily set up an account, and it allowed you that fiat gateway as well, right? To get in and to get out of crypto if you wanted to. So it's pretty handy. So what about yourself, Thomas? Can you tell us, how did you start?
Oh yeah, I was just thinking as Žiga was going through his memory lane. I think it was probably more usual story when there was a debate somewhere around dark web and kind of the internet money that you can use in that scenarios. I didn't dabble into it. Looking back, it probably would have been lucrative to do so. But yeah, I think I didn't get it right. So I didn't catch the bug at that time. But it was much more so than around the same period, obviously, when we were starting to look at the applications for the challenges that we were addressing, and then really it started to make more sense, okay, there's no central authority, it cannot be censored, so you can really transact some value from one place to the other. Couldn't we do the same thing with data or knowledge and not have someone in between, because we really didn't want to be a middleman in that scenario? And that's when kind of the clicker started going a bit more vividly. So yeah, I think in 2015 is where we started looking at it. 2016 we started drawing up some initial kind of concepts, and then 2017 the white paper came out, right? So that was the kickoff basically of what we'll be discussing today, the OriginTrail ecosystem.
Sounds interesting. Good. And let's talk about OriginTrail. So how did you come to start that, and what is it? If you could please summarize to somebody who doesn't know what OriginTrail is.
Yeah, so our mission has always been about bringing transparency and trust in data exchanges. And back in 2011, when we actually did the first project together immediately after college, we helped organic food producers to differentiate their products from cheaper competition by allowing consumers to access more information about quality, about provenance. And then throughout the years, we kind of improved the ability of what OriginTrail does. One front was, going into more different business sectors, and the other one was to launch a community, an ecosystem, which of course is based on principles of like decentralization. And in doing so, we figured out that using blockchain for enterprise purposes might not be a good idea without certain improvements, upgrades. And in 2017, we launched a white paper after testing how blockchain can be used in enterprise sector. And we proposed a solution which is called a decentralized knowledge graph. Decentralized knowledge graph is a marriage between two powerful technologies. One of them is blockchain, which a lot about it. And another one is knowledge graphs. Knowledge graphs are being used by companies such as Google, Amazon, like the biggest ones, to essentially connect information together. Google uses it so you can very quickly retrieve information online. Even now with the AI, knowledge graphs are proving to be a very powerful technology to very quickly point towards the information that can be ingested by such AI systems. And putting both technologies together essentially allowed us to do a leapfrog from where the enterprise sector was back in 2016-17. We gave business sector this needed interoperability so that they can stitch together data coming from multiple different data sources. And that was of course needed if you wanted to improve like data exchange amongst different companies. And OriginTrail decentralized knowledge graph in itself is a multi-chain project. It's based on several chains, and the latest chain and also the latest version, V6, is based on Polkadot. And right now we're growing the use cases from of course, supply chains, healthcare and life sciences. One such example from supply chains is a Scan Trusted Factory, which is a solution used by almost all major retailers in the US. When they import products from, let's say, China, they would exchange audit reports among themselves. So Walmart, Costco, they would exchange audit reports among themselves in order to allow certain factories to enter the United States. And right now we're very active in the AI space. Just yesterday we had a roundtable with Google, AstraZeneca, for the purposes of healthcare and life sciences. We're developing a solution that is going to allow consumers of medicines to scan a product of a medicine and then essentially have a conversation with this particular product in order to gain reliable and verifiable information about the usage of the medicine. So we have a very versatile or very rich spectrum of use cases within the OriginTrail. You can also check the website. It really gives you a good insight. But by and large, OriginTrail has always been about transparency and trust and certain values such as inclusiveness, neutrality, and also usability. And right now we have quite a lot of people involved in running nodes because it's a permissionless environment. So they would also receive certain rewards when they are maintaining data in the network. So it's a very vibrant community, and I encourage you to join the community and see what's going on.
Let's talk about Polkadot then. So why did you choose to build on Polkadot? I know you said that you're focusing on multi-chain, so you're not just looking at the one chain because the idea is to expand, right? So why did you choose Polkadot out of the other ecosystems out there?
Polkadot was when we were looking at the blockchain layer, for us, it was always that requirement really for trust, right? So that was we perceive it as a trust network. And then the decentralized knowledge graph is a network that it's on top. And it was initially deployed on Ethereum, and then that started showing some kind of hindrances in usability. So it was the fact that, that was maybe the DeFi summer, where the fees were very much getting to a high point, or the speed maybe wasn't there. And then what made us kind of look even more broadly in terms of what types of different alternatives for the consensus layer are plausible for the decentralized knowledge graph. And Polkadot really kind of echoed a lot of the thinking that we had about how the Web3 tech stack might look like in the future. So there were a few driving values that we saw that were important, like the interoperability element, so that you could have multiple chains that are communicating between each other, that you would have composability so that you can kind of create different components that are cross-usable in different ecosystems. And all of these things are important because they are like fabric for network effects. So what also Žiga was mentioning is how you have these different participants in a decentralized knowledge graph network, and in the future it's likely that you'll have more and more of those creators of knowledge, that are those that are adding knowledge to the DKG and they're indexing it in this network. And you can't really say it's just going to be one chain, right? So they might be already using a different blockchain ecosystem, and that's why it makes sense to kind of move toward that direction. And Polkadot kind of ticked a lot of those things in terms of just the speed that we were looking for from a chain, in terms of the scalability potential that we were looking for from a consensus layer, and as well the interoperability, which promised that we could have the DKG across the entire Polkadot ecosystem, hence also meaning that there could be multiple participants in the DKG that could leverage this technology across the entire kind of the Sama ecosystem. And that was really an appealing start. And then upon really designing this consensus, which is now the OriginTrail Parachain, we also saw a big opportunity in having that kind of, on one hand, a knowledge asset hub for the Polkadot community, but also an innovation hub for OriginTrail as well. So we can have this really kind of pursue the multi-chain vision of OriginTrail while also having an OriginTrail Parachain where we could have this innovation ground where we can create certain showcases of how really is the best way to have the consensus layer function for the DKG. So that would be kind of like the alignment, the deployment made sense, and then also the future seems to be aligned with what we are seeing.
Interesting. And we know that pay-as-you-go parachains are going to be launching pretty soon as well. I mean, do you see yourself eventually using that if there's no longer going to be this standard lease model for 2 years that we're seeing at the moment, where you have to win a parachain auction and then to have that continuity for 22 months? I mean, do you see yourself migrating to that model eventually, or what is your plan there?
Yeah, it's difficult to say what exactly is going to happen, because the Polkadot ecosystem has its own development trajectory, and it's not set in advance, like 5 years in advance. That's why we always kind of have to play it by ear when we're kind of planning the next step. There are some surprises within the Polkadot ecosystem. There are certain advancements that they're surprisingly positive, and on the other hand also some developments which are not as fast as we would want them to be. So that's why we need to somehow steer and always kind of check what's going on, visit decoded events to see what's the current state of the art. And when it comes to the future of parachains, I believe the model is always going to be suitable for OriginTrail. Right now, OriginTrail DKG is running on several networks. V6 is running on Parachain on Polkadot, and it is already, I believe, one of the 5 most used parachains on Polkadot. So top 5, and being a top 5 parachain, I think it's plausible to expect that OriginTrail is going to assume a position within the Polkadot ecosystem that is going to allow DKG OriginTrail to be running on top of the Polkadot, whatever the Polkadot the kind of the development of the technology might be. Next to that, of course, there are also going to be other chains where OriginTrail is going to be functioning on. So the decentralized knowledge graph is already earlier version is running on Ethereum, Gnosis, Matic. The newest version, but the biggest advancement, is running on Polkadot. And it has always been a fact that when DKG landed on a new chain, it immediately gained traction, immediately gained utility. because there were outstanding use cases that were deployed on a new chain. So we always expect DKG, when it lands on a specific chain, it immediately gains traction because there is a need for DKG to kind of employ the underlying blockchains. So my feeling is that DKG will always be employing functionalities of the Polkadot. How exactly this will look like, I think it primarily depends on how Polkadot developments will look like. We still don't have a full picture, but once we have a full picture, I think OriginTrail Parachain will always qualify to be amongst the first parachains to kind of grab the value propositions of the Polkadot, mostly because it's already one of top 5 used parachains in the Polkadot ecosystem.
Because you were mentioning supply chain earlier and pharmaceuticals, so it caught my attention because every time I hear the word supply chain, the mind flies to Vechain, which is a very famous blockchain. We know about it since for a long time now. So I have to ask you, like, how do you guys compare yourselves to like Vechain, and how do you see yourselves like maybe doing something that better than they're doing at the moment? If you had a chance to compare yourselves and to see if there are any similarities in that aspect.
I think the biggest difference between us and other like blockchain-based supply chains solutions is that we're not betting on blockchain for supply chains market that much. Blockchain for supply chains market is still relatively small, $500 million a year, although it has a CAGR of like pretty big. So in a few years time, it's going to be, I think, 10 times larger. OriginTrail, we play in a much larger pond. We call this, it's kind of an intersection of what I mentioned and AI for enterprise, or AI for general purpose. Now this market is much larger. It already kind of encompasses $17 billion yearly. So that's way bigger than just $500 million of a market. And the main reason here being that OriginTrail is not just about transactions. Of course, we're using underlying blockchains, much like any other blockchain for supply chains. But the name of the game with OriginTrail is really to allow individuals to secure the knowledge that they have and even tokenize that knowledge. We say that knowledge is a new asset class. Much like Bitcoin is an asset class, or NFTs are even an asset class, and we believe that in the third innovation wave within the Web3, it's not only going to be about Bitcoins and the likes and the NFT metaverses, but it's going to be about the knowledge. How can you tokenize your own IP, your knowledge, and then essentially create this portfolio, and then essentially use this portfolio of knowledge even within the AI systems, such as generative AI systems that are being delivered by OpenAI, by Google, Microsoft. And right now we also have an open initiative called ChatDKG, where we kind of provide the common ground for builders for OriginTrail ecosystem to come together and build solutions on top of the decentralized knowledge graph, which is then going to be exploiting these knowledge portfolios in order to build value both for supply chains, for enterprise sectors, or even individuals. One such solution that was recently launched is called Trackverse, and Trackverse is a metaverse. It's actually an omniverse project that allows for tokenization of knowledge for very cool AI generated stories. So this is one such example where any individual can start generating his own portfolio of knowledge assets and then build value, build application for others. So the kind of the spiel that we're in is much greater than just blockchain for supply chains. And I think we have a lot of companies building upon OriginTrail, which are already proving that market is much larger, and that we really qualify to essentially become some sort of a decentralized Google, as any individual organization can secure its own metaverse of knowledge assets and then build solution upon those.
And I want to ask you now about some of the challenges that you may have faced or encountered with OriginTrail along the way since you started developing. If you could please talk about those.
Yeah, I mean, developing a decentralized solution is never straightforward, because you need to take into account a delicate balance between usability and also decentralization. when we look at companies that have no decentralization components, and there are even some companies in Web3 crypto in Web3 that do not have sufficient amount of decentralization. But when we compare ourselves to those centralized companies, they don't need to make sure that tokenomics is in place so that people can participate either as node runners or those who are participating in building incentivizing the usage of the network. You don't have those aspects. So we as a core builder, we need to make sure that decentralization is in place. Therefore, we need to work with not only with our community, but also with other communities such as Polkadot. We need to understand the spectrum of technologies, spectrum of different blockchains. And on the other hand, we have an enterprise feel. We have mainstream companies that we work with. We talk with companies on a regular basis, such as Google. We talk with companies such as BSI that then works with Walmart, JCPenney, Costco. So it's two worlds that we need to somehow navigate between. And oftentimes this makes things a little bit more complex and complicated for us. But I think we are striking a very ideal balance, because both traditional markets, let's say supply chains or enterprise sector, when both kind of aspects, both the Web3 decentralization and the more traditional enterprise segments come together, I think the OriginTrail is an ideal intersection, because it delivers values such as interoperability between different systems, verifiability of information, and the decentralization which is needed to achieve so is here and is being kind of enabled by the community advancements that we're building upon. And it's a difficult play, but I think OriginTrail is ideally positioned to achieve all those ends.
Let's talk about the coin as well, which is powering the blockchain, the OriginTrail blockchain. So you initially launched on Ethereum, then you launched on Gnosis chain as well, and now you're on Polkadot. So can you please talk about the utility of OTP? Like, what is it used for, basically, aside from transaction fees and governance?
Yeah, so OriginTrail has always been a two-token system, right? So you'd always have the decentralized knowledge graph network that had track, a track token basically used to manage relationships between the participants there. And then there was an underlying blockchain token. So when it was deployed on Ethereum, that was ETH and track. Gnosis, it was XDAI and track. Polygon's Matic and track. And on the OriginTrail Parachain, we have a similar situation where you have the OriginTrail Parachain and you have the DKG again. And this is the track is used for the DKG and OTP is used for the blockchain functionalities. So the way that we've seen the OTP to function is really to serve as a glue for the OriginTrail Parachain network. So it's there to be used for fees. So whoever is using the network should be also compensating the network with the fees. There's the element of governance that you mentioned, which is currently being implemented as well. There's the element of the collators system as well, which is getting implemented, which is another way that the OTP will be able to be used. So those are really like Polkadot native, let's say, more or less utility approaches for the tokens. And we also have the element of OTP being used for the incentivizing the decentralized knowledge graph use, where basically the activity on the decentralized knowledge graph, again, this is with the thinking that those that are adding to the OriginTrail ecosystem by, let's say, publishing their knowledge assets, their journey should be as streamlined as possible. So if they receive some of the OTP as well as a reward for their activity on the DKG, so they can have more activity get done using this chain, that should create a positive feedback loop. And that's the way that it was basically also designed, or is like these RFCs, requests for comments documents, are scheduled for the forthcoming period. So that part of those utilities are yet to be unlocked. But that was really the core focus of OTP, is to be that glue to bring together the OriginTrail Parachain network and to enable and its use and growth, so that we can kind of have this positive reinforcement happening throughout the development.
Financial sustainability. I don't need to know amounts, but I do not need to know, like, in terms of time frame, how long do you guys think you have in terms of runway to sustain and to continue the roadmap and hit those milestones from this moment? Like,
this is a question that we got asked quite a lot 2018, 2019.
Yeah.
When I think that the question was really well placed. A lot of projects back then, after completing their ICOs, they were relying mostly on like treasuries in order to develop and in order to sustain their ecosystems. Now we kind of undertook a different path. Of course, OriginTrail was launched via like similar event, and it gave us like the initial push. But immediately in the 2018 bear market, we realized that we need to essentially validate the technology that we're building, not only by testing it with free users, but essentially whoever we work with is paying for the services that are being provided both by the DKG and also by the core development company that is sustaining OriginTrail solutions, OriginTrail fundamentals. So this not only provided us with the validation of the technology, but also with the an extended runway. So the way we're also managing the development of OriginTrail is based on a very simple philosophy, which is that we don't allow end user to come into the OriginTrail ecosystem if they do not put their money when their mouth is. And this has, thanks to this, we have built a very sustainable model for developing OriginTrail, which is really based on putting OriginTrail to work. And when we do so, there is no essentially limitation to how long and how far we can develop OriginTrail.
Okay, sounds good. So you found that sustainable model, being in for so long now, and having faced one bear market and now being through the bull market as well, which thankfully has helped a lot, I'm sure. So thank you for assuring us of that. What is coming up on OriginTrail on the roadmap now that you're excited to share about with the audience?
I mean the next months are crazy, man. They're filled up with a lot of the excitement, exciting updates. It's hard even to pinpoint one, but I'll highlight maybe something that Žiga already mentioned. We are really at an inflection point in terms, like a little revolution, not even little, like a quite significant revolution happening in the world with the advancements that we're seeing with artificial intelligence. And in our perspective, Web3 has a very unique, it's an opportunity, but also like a required action to bring trust into that world in a much bigger sense than we have so far. So we need to put on our big boy pants to really start thinking about how Web3 technologies will become, and OriginTrail, we believe, is one of the key components in this, is becoming a trusted knowledge foundation for these AI systems. McKinsey said 4.4 trillion, literally one Great Britain added annually to the world's value getting created, but it also creates a lot of threats, and these threats can be up to a point mitigated with Web3, and OriginTrail is here to play a big role. Chat DKG, check it out. I think it's a very exciting initiative to be a part of.
Also, we just released a new roadmap a month ago or a few weeks ago, and in it there are plenty of updates, plenty of new things that we are going to be achieving in the following months until we conclude the so-called Turing phase and enter the Metcalfe phase. Now in the Turing phase, our main aim is also to grow the network. There are certain metrics that we are expecting to achieve by the end of the Turing phase, and entering the Metcalfe phase in the later part of this year. We named this phase Metcalfe phase after our advisor and an internet pioneer, Dr. Bob Metcalfe. And he also coined the term of network effects. So what we want to achieve in that phase is even steeper growth of the network, also being propelled by having DKG established on more chains. So looking into other blockchain ecosystem that can really build from what we have been developing on OT Parachain and also on the decentralized knowledge graph. And having OriginTrail essentially grow on those chains thanks to the multitude of use cases and also thanks to more functionalities being offered by several chains.
Now, I do have one final question, and that's in relation to the marketing plan. Like, what is your plan to market OriginTrail, not only with companies, enterprises, but also in terms of retail? If you could please talk about that.
Yeah, so there is only as much one can do. So the ecosystem itself needs to play by the ecosystem rules. So if you want to improve popularity of an ecosystem technology such as OriginTrail, you should not try and market it as a centralized solution or as a centralized ecosystem. So it's really an ecosystem effort here, and we are very much leaning on our successes also on the other side of the ecosystem, which is an enterprise adoption, because this is what we believe is going to fuel the mass adoption of Web3 solutions such as OriginTrail. We don't believe in traditional, like more established ways of sponsoring kickboxing championship or sponsoring arenas, which did not come to a very pleasant fruition, such as the recent fiascos we've seen. So the marketing needs to be done in a very decentralized fashion, and it needs to be inclusive, and it by no means it should kind of resemble like certain centralized efforts that were displayed in the past by certain projects, by companies that even went bust after doing so. We have in our plans to kind of rekindle our work in Asia, getting ourselves exposed in Asian communities, which I believe are the future for the crypto growth. A lot of things happening here in Europe and the United States are somewhat reaching this glass ceiling, not only because of the regulation, but also because markets in the East and the polls that we are getting from Eastern markets is much more encouraging, and we also hope to establish more firmer connections in those parts of the Web3 communities, and also bring in the value propositions that are being ensured by the OriginTrail ecosystem in there. I hope that's the answer, or the level of detail that you wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for that. And I totally agree with you. I think Asia should be a focus point for sure. I mean, think about if you remember, like in the last bull market in 2017, the one previous to the one we had, where Korea was very big, Japan was very big on crypto. There was a lot of bullish news there. Everyone they were on two phones at the same time, one looking at crypto and the other one messaging. So it was really, really huge. Like, I had some Korean friends as well, and they were telling me like crypto is huge here, until that issue with the regulation started, and then things started to quieten down a lot. So I think, if we can bring that sentiment back in Asia, I think that's going to be huge, especially for many Web3 projects. So you guys are positioned in a really good area right now to hopefully grow in that market. Now I do have one final question for each of you, not related to OriginTrail, by the way. This is in relation to what is one thing in life that you truly desire. I'm gonna start with you, Žiga, and then if you want to tell us after, Thomas. So
yeah, I guess in relation to what we do, we really desire that the knowledge assets, the technologies that we build can contribute to fighting misinformation that is now occurring and is also being exacerbated by AI systems. So the pace through which the misinformation is being proliferated is unmatched in the history, and we really hope that also OriginTrail is going to play a crucial role in tackling misinformation wherever we see it, be it in the enterprise sector, you as a consumer purchasing product, purchasing services, or in media. I think the world can be much better off if we can come together and really devise ways to tackle misinformation.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that sentiment, and it's in a way thinking about kind of the one desire. I find it more that all the sayings that go in the direction of the waterfall is the sum of the little drops, and similar are in play here. So for me, the desire of achieving that goal is which really lies in having, finding the world a better place than we found it, lies in daily activities, lies in the way that we've, for example, set OriginTrail in values, and those values are then have to be exemplified in actions day in, day out, because that then allows you to reach that desire on a daily basis versus kind of hoping for like a one big event, some ever elusive event in the future. And it makes it easier to get really focused and put in all the effort that's required to achieve it, because you know that with every kind of day or every hour, or even us talking here now, we're adding another stone in that mosaic of the big impact that we can create here. And that's why the ecosystem approach is so great. That's why the way Trace Labs can function is so great, because we all contribute the part in creating a better world in the sense of all the points that we were highlighting before: having more trust, having more transparency, creating more value, like insanely a lot more value, but in a way that we can have not necessarily equal, but like equitable starting point. So you can have a middle ground, a certain common denominator that the OriginTrail can provide, and with that we'll have all the impacts that I think will see us have better lives, and we'll see our next generation have better lives, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Yeah, Web3 is here to stay. Let's hope we can see it develop and expand and adopted by a lot more Web2 companies and retail. Guys, thank you very much for taking the time to join. I really appreciate it. And thank you as well for watching this video. If you want to check out OriginTrail, I'm going to be posting links both in the description of this video and also in the pinned comment. Make sure to also follow them on Twitter for the latest updates, and join their maybe Telegram community, Discord, any social media they may have. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.